And we are live, man. Appreciate y'all tuning in to the Bluebloods official podcast of FCS Football Central on SI. Myself, joined by my guy, Coach Leroy Frederick, as always, out there on the golf cart. Man, it's too hot to be out there on the golf cart doing this show, man.
Man, I'm actually in the shade. It's got a nice little breeze. I'm good now. Definitely not in the sun, but in the shade, got a nice breeze, man. Just kind of cooling.
Listen, man, being a former O lineman, I'm too big to be out even in the shade. It's too hot right now, man. You caught me
Nah,
passed out, but
it
man,
be fine.
hey, guys, we are going to be putting together we're going to make a push toward the season, man. The season kicks off next weekend. Man, I can't believe I'm saying that, Coach. Next weekend, we got the SWAC MEAC Challenge. We got Tarleton
Can't wait.
McNeese. We
Can't
got
wait.
FCS kickoff game. We got Montana State, New Mexico. And then I think even Delaware State goes to Hawaii next weekend. I think that game kicks off midnight Eastern time, Coach, if
Yep,
I'm not
yep.
mistaken. So I don't know how those kids are going to be up for a midnight game with their bodies and everything. But we'll leave that. We'll leave that there, man. But Coach, we started our bold take series. We're going to be live for at least 30 minutes every single day until next Saturday, man. Coach is going to be doing fall camp, so we're going to be going live at some weird times, man. We're going to be doing lunchtime shows, maybe a late show every now and then. And if Coach has to tap out, I'm going to tag in my guy Timothy, and you're going to see me and Timothy come on here and break down some of these bold takes. So we're going to be live on YouTube, on social media, every single day till next Saturday. And then obviously next week we'll have our week 0 preview, me and Coach, and we'll have the recap after week 0 and get into some week 1 action, talk a little bit about
It's
Alcorn
here,
State
baby.
opening up.
It's here,
I'm pumped,
baby.
man. I'm so pumped. Coach, real quick, your thoughts on fall camp so far, man? You guys, 2 weeks left till open and kickoff, man. How we looking over on the reservation?
Man, looking good. Coming along, some days are better than others. You know how that goes. The kids have done really well. We start out in the morning, of course, but by the time we get to that last couple periods, it's pretty toasty. They've pushed, they've worked hard. We've had limited amount of tap outs. So feeling good. We got a really good battle in a couple positions going on.
I think
So really, really excited about it all and what's happening, man. And before you go into another, I just want to put this out there. Uh, Coach Timmy Chang, man, if you need another game next year, man, holler at us. I'm sure we can make this happen. Uh, we'll come out there and see you.
Oh, I like it calling them out. But listen, guys, on social media, on my Twitter, on the community tab on YouTube, on Reddit FCS, on the FCS Fan Nation Facebook page, we put out a call. We want y'all's boldest, hottest takes for the 2024 season involving
Mm,
HBCU FCS football. We've had a
mm.
million submissions, man. So we're gonna do 5 to 10 every single episode up until even week 1, Coach. Even through week 0, we're going to be coming back with some of these bold takes. So we had that many good submissions. And Coach, let's start right here. I think we're going to ease into this one, man, because I got 10 and they get hotter as we go along.
Oh,
The first one from our guy Doug Bailey on Facebook. Cole Gonzales will win the Walter Payton in dominant fashion, and Western Carolina will win the SoCon in a walkaway. Coach, here's how we do it. One, so we got to rate these 1 to 10 on the boldness meter, Coach. So for this one, I personally, I don't know if this is very bold, Coach. I'll be honest with you. So like for me, 1 is no chance of it happening. 10 is extremely likely. Cole Payton wins to Walter Payton. Maybe not in a runaway, but Coach, I think that might be a 7. I could see that.
definitely can see that. Um, Now the walk away with the SoCon.
I don't know about that one.
So this is a two-parter.
Yeah,
But the first part of that, I can go 7, maybe
yeah.
even 8, if he can stay healthy. And then the walk away with the SoCon, I got to put that on the other side of 5. I got to go 4, somewhere in there.
Yeah. I think if you add the walkaway part, I think it's a 1. I just with how competitive the SoCon is, Coach, I find it even hard for a team like Chattanooga to walk away with that conference. Now, when you look at Western Carolina with Cole Gonzales, I really like what they return on defense. I think their defense is going to be a lot better than people think. Antoine Williams, Hayward McQueen, those guys at the linebacking core, they got some really good pieces in the secondary. Could Western Carolina win the SoCon? I don't think that's that bold. I had them number 2 in my preseason rankings behind Chattanooga, but to walk away with it, God, it's tough to see anyone get through the SoCon unscathed, Coach. I just don't see anyone going undefeated in the conference.
Nah, and then you hit on another thing that's really, I think, important because that defense is going to have to carry them until they figure out who's going to fill in some of those major pieces that they lost, because they lost a good size, a good chunk of their offense. Not just from the college shirt side, but some players sprinkled in there as well. So defense I think is going to have to hold them up for a little while, and then Mr. Gonzales, Mr. CG can figure out what he's got around him and kind of go from there.
I like it. Let's go here, Coach. And I think me and you kind of both know where this one's going. Our guy, Architect Nice, off of YouTube, man. Shout out to him. Go check out his channel and go subscribe. Does great reactions to HBCU football, everything like that. Really shines a light on a lot of the players and recruits coming in to the SWAC and MEAC. But Coach, he says Morgan State wins the MEAC. I think we all know where I stand on this. I'm gonna toss it to you. I don't think that's bold at all.
No. And I think we touched on this a couple shows ago. If they can figure out how to get to 15, 16, 17 points first, it's no doubt in my mind that they can get that done. So I would put this in the 8 category as well. Not very bold.
Yeah, I think 8 or 9 for me in terms of the likeliness scale. I picked Morgan to win the MEAC in the poll that we did for FCS Football Central. So not bold at all. Coach, do I still have doubts about quarterback and that offense? Yes, they brought in a new OC. They got some new pieces. Offensive line has some guys coming back who I really like. So I think Morgan's going to be okay. And like Coach, me and you have talked about on the show a million times, they don't need to score 50 points a game. No. Get me to 24. And you probably win 90% of the games on your schedule. So I do think Morgan winning the MEAC, not a very bold take there, Architect, but man, appreciate the question. Now, Coach, this one we starting to get into some interesting conversations. Our guy Mason Smith said multiple HBCUs will make the FCS playoffs, and Alabama State lives up to the hype and wins the East this year.
Very, very bold on the first part. Yeah. When you're saying multiple, and then not very bold on the second part, because the hype machine has been the hype machine since the end of spring ball, with that team winning that side. So I'm gonna go in the 9, and then the other part, because we're saying multiple. I just don't know if we're going to be able to get multiple. So to me, that's very bold.
That'd be a 1 because it's backwards on that. Because in terms of likely, very likely. But yeah, like the bold beaters flip. So yeah, 9 bold. Yeah, very, very much.
Very bold. And then on the other part of the question, not so bold, because like I said, that's been the hype meter. Hype train's been rolling that for a while. But multiple, I just don't see multiple. I'm not saying it's not doable. I don't foresee multiple.
The only way I foresee multiple happening is if Tennessee State wins the Big South OVC. That would be the only way I think that would possibly, because when I look at it, Coach, when you look at the HBCUs that have a chance to get to the playoffs, it's Jackson maybe if they beat ULM and don't win the East with like 1 loss, they're probably in. FAM has a possible chance depending on how that works out, but FAM and Jackson both won't be in the running because whoever loses that game is probably out of it. And then you got North Carolina Central potentially if they don't win the MEAC. But Coach, when it comes down to like a Jackson versus Central, I don't see, it would have to be chaos in the CAA and the SoCon, because I don't think Central and Jackson both get in as at larges. Like one of the 2 would get in, but not both. So it's really a conversation about, do you think Tennessee State can win the Big South OVC? I don't think they're there this year. I think that's going to be a tough ask with what UT Martin's bringing back. So I think that's very bold. I would put that like on the boldness scale, probably an 8, likeliness scale, probably like a 3, 2 or 3, maybe. Maybe even a 1, depending on how that shapes out. Now, the second one, I don't think that's very bold. I mean, that's the preseason favorite in Alabama State. Now, I don't think that's a very bold. So, I mean, I think that's that's somewhere in that,
The,
likeliness
the
range, like the 7-8 range.
the playoff thing, there would have to be teams that won their money game, so to speak, and
Yeah.
had super seasons outside of, making the conference championship type thing. We'd have to pull off this UAB Vandy, which is doable,
Yep.
and then not be, stumble, which that stumble that would keep us out of the championship game may hurt. So you've got to have multiple scenarios like that for that first part, I think, to happen.
And I also think, if all, because, the West is tricky because obviously Grambling and Southern can't get in because of the Bayou Classic, and Alabama State can't get in on the East because of the Turkey Day. So for Alcorn to get in, I think what would need to happen is you guys would have to beat McNeese again, and McNeese would have to find a way to possibly win the Southland.
Be respectable.
Yeah,
Very
like they
respectable.
couldn't go, 1-10, and
No.
that'd be a good out of conference. Now, Mr. Cable has a good shot. Like, this would be the other scenario. Like, let's say Central's out of it. Let's say Central falls out, they lose to like A&T or something crazy. If FAM, Jackson, Bama State go round robin, and you got 9-3 FAM, 11-1 Jackson, Alabama State 11-1, that's a different conversation altogether. But then maybe FAM and Jackson both could get in, but man, that's asking a whole lot of both of those teams to wind up at 11-1.
I like that.
Yeah,
Round
I don't know. Maybe a SWAC historian in the chat can tell me when's the last time two SWAC teams have won 11 games in the same division.
Well, that's not going to happen to them because they all play us. So,
I like it.
Those. Now, on to the next bowl tape.
now, this one, Coach, that we got. I need you to take the logo off your chest off for this one. PV versus everybody. Our guy Lionel said PV hosts the SWAC championship this year. They win the Celebration Bowl and finish in the FCS top 25.
Go back over that scenario again. That's very bold. I just don't know. Yeah, that's very bold. That's
man.
That's a 9.5 in boldness. But I get it.
That's a lot. That's a lot of ifs on that one. But let me say this: if it was PV makes the SWAC championship, I don't know if that's very bold, Coach, because they've been there. Yeah, so that's not bold. But hosting, I think, is going to be tough just because of how tight that division is. And I also do think that whoever comes out of the East is going to host. I really just I think that's how it's been, but we'll see. But here's the other thing, I talk about the cannibalization of the West. Coach, what happens if the East teams beat up on each other?
Which is very, very likable.
And then
doable.
And then you have the winner of PV Alcorn. What if one of you guys go undefeated? Well, if the champion of the West only has one loss, then you guys
come on to the reservation, baby.
So it could happen. Maybe the hosting isn't Super Bowl just because of how tough the East is going to be, but win the Celebration Bowl, I do think is tough. I've said this too. No matter who goes to the Celebration Bowl, based on who I think is going to be there, I do think it's going to be a really, really tough matchup with that defense. But here's what I'm going to say: the finish in the FCS top 25 is not bold because if the first two things happen, odds are you're probably in the FCS top 25. Right?
Yeah.
Now, here's the exclusion, because if Howard would have won the Celebration Bowl, they would not have been in my FCS top 25.
Well, that would have made them what, 7 and 6. 7 and 6. Yeah.
7 and 6. And same for like South Carolina State when they beat Jackson. They're probably not in the top 25 because they were 6 and 5 or something like that.
Yeah.
So
pretty close. Yeah.
Maybe if PV struggles out of conference, but they have some winnable out of conference games, I don't think they're going to be, if this all happened, PV probably is an 8 or 9 win team. They're probably already, in the top 25. Before that, as we get Coach back, I think he just got a phone call. Bold take number 5. We go to the Valley here, guys. And this one's an interesting one because I feel like there's a lot of what ifs with this one too. Stay classy people over on FCS Reddit said Northern Iowa gets upset by St. Thomas, but picks up an FBS win over Hawaii. and the Missouri Valley Conference gets 3 FBS upset wins. Southern Illinois over BYU, Youngstown State over Pitt. And Youngstown State over Pitt was a popular bowl take based on the submissions from some of the Youngstown fans. I'll say this. I think this is extremely bold. Especially the first part. St. Thomas has been a good Pioneer League team since they made the transition up from D3, and they've been competing really well in the Pioneer, but they have not shown that they can compete against scholarship teams right now. And so I don't see, even though I'm not high on UNI, I just don't see St. Thomas beating Northern Iowa. So I think that one is insanely bold. Like 10 on the bold scale, probably one. And also, too, if you're losing to a non-scholarship school, you're probably not going on the road and beating Hawaii either. But now for the MVFC 3 FBS wins, I do think that's interesting, Coach. I don't think it happens, but I could see the MVFC getting 2 wins. I do think if you're getting 3, Coach, either South Dakota State or North Dakota State has to pull off one of those week 1 upsets. I don't see 3 teams outside of the Dakota schools pulling off upsets.
Yeah, and that BYU one's going to be tough.
Yes.
Altogether, that one's going to be tough. So yeah, I'm with you on that bowl take, the complete bowl take.
Yeah, that's probably a 1 across the board on that one. Or 10 on the bold take scale, 1 on the likely scale. But now, Coach, this is a good one. Our guy Dave, shout out to Dave from PMP, HBCU Nightly MD. Norfolk State will finish top 3 in the MEAC, Coach, which means you got Morgan, Central, Howard, South Carolina State. Which could Norfolk sneak into that top 3?
Oh man, you know what? Let's asterisk this one, and after that week 0 game, I'll better be able to tell you. But right now, I'm saying no. Right now I'm saying I don't see that, and I think that's I'm just not seeing it just from what I remember and what I remember them losing. I just don't that would be a wild finish in the MEAC.
Yeah, I'm looking at their schedule, Coach. Here's what would have to happen. I mean, they play Central in Indianapolis. They play in the Circle City Classic this year. They get Howard at home. They have to travel to Morgan. They get Delaware State at home, and then they travel to South Carolina State. If this happens, you're going to have to beat Howard at home, and you're probably going to have to win one of those 2 road games against Morgan or South Carolina State, if not both.
Definitely got to pull one off.
Yeah.
And then I think, with that week 0 game, I think we'll have a better understanding of what they are or what they want to be for the upcoming season. But as of right now, I'd say nah.
Shout out to Mr. Campbell. I knew somebody was going to know it.
Trey Lee Moses, 1954.
1954. Mr. Campbell, thank you so much for that, man. Shout out to Mr. Campbell. And also, if you haven't seen the other coaches corner with Coach Johnny Cole, Mr. Campbell, Rocky, man, they've done a great job. They had Coach TC Taylor on last night, man. Coach, they're working, man. They've had a coach interview every single night for like 2 weeks now.
That's big time.
From D2 to D1, man. So y'all are doing it big, Mr. Campbell, man. Shout out to y'all. I'm always tuned in. Coach,
hey, Mr. Campbell, my lawyers will be in contact with you guys about the name. But that's very bold, man. That's a very bold take. Very bold take.
Yeah. Let's go to number 7 here. And this comes from, if I'm not mistaken, our guy, Powerboy 6000 is an A&T guy. The Big Sky only gets 3 bids to the FCS playoffs.
Who falls off?
So let's put this in perspective. Montana State are guaranteed to get in. Like, unless just
the wheels just completely fall off.
Yeah, unless the West Coast just falls off into the Pacific Ocean or something like that, they're getting bids. So you're saying that one other team in the Big Sky gets it, just one. I think there's too many good teams in the Big Sky, Coach. I mean, I look at the Big Sky. Idaho, I think, is going to be in contention for one of the bids. I think you got UC Davis. I think you've got SAC State. And then I think a sleeper team, coach, could be a possible Eastern Washington if their defense can come together. I just don't see how they get fewer than 4.
Yeah, and like you said, it had to be total chaos. And then some other conferences would have to go on an amazing run to eat those other spots up to make it tough. Because I mean, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, the Big Sky is looked upon at the FCS level as being the conference, so to speak. Um, I don't know how, unless it just all falls off the table.
Yeah.
For some of those schools, I don't know how they only get 3.
Yeah.
That's just my.
And our guy, the Rev, makes a good point. Don't sleep on Weber
Rev,
State either.
Rev.
Yeah. Hey, shout out to our guy, the Rev, too, man. Go check out his new show. He launched it last night. I got to be a special guest. Shout out to the Rev. The Southland Sermon with the Rev. The most creative name in this space, man. What a name. Coach, he had church music playing, bringing us in. It was electric. So, and Coach,
Yes.
we already talked to Rev. He said he didn't forget about y'all's cigar bet. So he said he better see you in Frisco this year.
Oh, I'm coming to collect.
Oh yeah. Let's go. Man, we got 3 left. I know we got to get out of here in about 15 minutes, Coach. Our guy Alex Kinkle, a South Dakota State guy, man. Illinois State earns a top 16 seed in the FCS playoffs. So if you guys remember real quick, the top 8 seeds historically have gotten buys. Well, now they're ranking the top 16 teams. The first 8 get buys, the second 8 host a first round game. Coach, is there a chance Illinois State can be one of those top 16 teams?
Man, I think this is very bold.
No.
That's going to be tough to do. I mean, they gotta go on a run, and hope some other people don't go on a run. That's bold. That's bold.
Okay, that's where we disagree. I'm gonna say not bold. I'm gonna say a 2 on the scale of boldness. And
You saying it's doable?
Yeah, I think on a scale of boldness is 2, likeliness about 8. I think personally, I'll say this. I think Illinois State has a chance to be the 3rd best team in the Valley this year, even over South Dakota. I think they could be that good. The one question I do have is quarterback, because they did lose their quarterback this all season. But, Coach, they got one of the best running backs in the Valley. They have arguably one of the best offensive linemen in the Valley, and Hunter Zambrano returned multiple starters on the O-line. They have arguably one of the best wide receivers in the Valley in Sopkowitz. Then on defense, you've got arguably the best edge rusher in the Valley, too, in Amir Abdullah, who's an NFL prospect. Your secondary returns multiple guys. I think they're going to be really good. And you got a freshman All-American Mike coming back on the interior of your linebacking core. Coach, Illinois State has all the pieces to be really good this year. I think they probably finish somewhere in that 3 to 4 range in the Valley. And if you're top 3, 4 in the Valley, I think you're probably a seed in this new format with the FCS playoffs. So I don't think it's very bold, man. I think Illinois State gets it done. They get to host a first round game. I don't think they're going to make a run to a top 8 seed, but I like them here at as a top 16 seed. As coach gets back, man, listen, he's busy. It's fall camp. He's getting phone calls, all that good stuff. This one's going to be an interesting one. I can't wait for coach to get back on this one. We got Easy Calligrapher 992. This is from Reddit as well. Furman wins the FCS National Championship, and Western Carolina pulls off the upset over Montana early in the season on the road. Man, this is Coach. We got 2 left for here, man. This one's big from Reddit. Furman wins the national championship, and Western Carolina upsets Montana early in the season on the road.
Oh man, that's I wouldn't even say that's far fetched. I mean, I'm going to say that's far fetched. I don't see that one. Not taking anything away from Furman, but man, do you understand what kind of run they'd have to go on?
With all
and
those
where
new
they would
pieces,
have to go to get that run on. I don't.
we might have lost coach again. Oh, there
Hey,
he's back. Yeah, you're back. You're back.
um,
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not on the Furman bandwagon this year. I
nah,
just with a new quarterback, because they're gonna have a new quarterback, new running back, new top wide receivers, a new tight end, multiple starters across the offensive line, and then I think they only return like 3 or 4 starters on the defense. I think they returned 6 total starters, including an NFL corner and Travis Blackshear. I like I said on the top 25 show, I think Furman's getting a lot of hype because of the brand, because they're one of those Southern school brands that have always been successful. I just don't see the hype with Furman this year. So I'm going to say very bold on that. That's a 10 on the bold scale, 1 on the likely scale. Now, Western Carolina over Montana. Is it going to happen? Probably not. But, Coach, the more I look at that game, the more intriguing that matchup is for me. Just because Montana has not faced a quarterback that can throw the football like Cole Gonzales.
yes,
And it's
consistent.
good. And I really do think when you look at Montana's schedule, and I understand the Tommy Mellott hype, but Mellott's a dual threat guy. Montana will not face a better quarterback than Cole Gonzales the rest of the season, unless they run into South Dakota State in the national title. Then you got that bad man, Mark Gronowski. But I'm going to be very, very honest, Coach. I don't think it would be bold. It's bold just because it's Montana at home and they don't lose a lot at home. But the likeliness, I don't, everyone's expecting me to say 1. I think it's somewhere in the 4 or 5 range. If it
Yeah, that's
happened,
tough.
I wouldn't be floored.
It's tough. It's doable, but I mean, that's a tough thing for Cole to overcome.
Not predicting it.
Yeah, yeah. And then, like I said, there's still some pieces that we need to find out, how they're gonna, mesh and gel. Um, if this was the same team from last year with a year under their belt, I might jump on it. But
Yeah.
it's not the same team, not the same staff, that kind of thing. So, um, I just, I mean, that's gonna be tough.
I'll say this. If Montana does not have their quarterback situation figured out, might want to tune into that one.
Oh yeah,
Remember, they lost to Northern Arizona last year, guys, and went on to make a run in the national title. They could lose this game and still make a run late in the season if it all clicks. But
once they
let's
can
not
figure it
act
out.
like we haven't seen Montana get off to slow starts here. And then the last one, Coach, and I mean, the bad part is, man, I know you got to get out of here. I've wrote a bunch down for future shows. There's some really good ones I want to get to, but I want to spread out the good ones across the shows. This is the last one, Coach. Our guy, Doctor, what is going to say, Dom. UC Davis wins the Big Sky, and Sac State misses the FCS playoffs.
You see, that's very,
That's bold.
very bold.
That's a bold take.
It's very bold. Um, Sac State, man, they return that quarterback.
Yeah, Caden,
Um,
he's
I
a
think
dog.
he's good. Yeah, I think he's good. I think he's good for 3, 4 wins by himself.
Yeah.
Um, I
They
would say
returned 8
both.
offensive starters. Yeah, that's bold for both, I think. And to
Both.
be fair, he did say to ignore his handle. This was on Reddit, Coach. He is a UC Davis fan, so we'll let him slide on it. But I just don't see UC. I think UC Davis is a playoff team. I love Len Larison. I love some of the defensive pieces, Rex Connors and those guys. But man, if they're going to even compete for the Big Sky, Miles Hastings is going to have to take the biggest leap we've seen a quarterback take in a long time. And they got a new head coach this year, Coach.
Mhm.
So first year head coach winning the Big Sky over Montana State would be an insane storyline. So that's a 10 on the bowl scale, probably like a 1 or a 2 on the likeliness. And then for Sac State missing the playoffs, Coach, you've mentioned it. Their defense is going to have to be rebuilt, but their head coach was the defensive coordinator for one of the best defenses in school history. They brought in a lot of good transfers. Mervin Kenyon at safety from Idaho, Will Leota at linebacker from Utah Tech. I think Sac State's probably a top 4 Big Sky team right now. I have them, I think, preseason top 10. I just don't see how Sac misses the playoffs, Coach, unless they just an injury bug hits them like it did last year. Remember when Caden Bennett missed,
Yeah, it went down for a
it's a little
while.
bit of
Yep.
time. So that'd be the only way, but very, very bold take. But, Coach, man, before we wrap this up, man, I said I wasn't going to comment on it. I know you said you wanted to offer a little bit of thoughts, man, going on what's down there in Tallahassee with all the news, man. So I'll let you end the show on that.
Man, it's just that was I guess you can say you seen it coming, but I didn't see it coming uh, this quickly. I thought maybe December-ish, semester break-ish. Um, I just don't like the optics of it, not knowing all within or not fully being behind the curtain. I just think the optics of it screams witch hunt, and don't know her outside of being able to talk to her for a few times for an interview, that type of thing. But it seems like it was witch hunt type-ish for someone who had just recently won a nationally recognized award. Um, and I understand, she might not have been squeaky clean. I just, the optics of it is just strange and screams witch hunt. So, again, hopefully this is not a distraction for Coach Cozy's team, his program as they near uh, the start of the season. But this is just one more thing, which is why I want to talk about it. This is just one more thing that makes it extremely tough for him going forward. Um, that's just one more thing, that someone's going to ask you about that has nothing to do with football. That's just one more thing somebody's going to ask your kids about that have nothing to do with football, and one more distraction that you've got to kind of navigate around and through.
Yeah, like I said, I'm a football guy. I really didn't have any thoughts on it. I let everyone else kind of speak for that. I'm down to talk football, but yeah, it is definitely an interesting. I didn't expect it to have it. I don't know. I've been kind of following it halfway, but that's kind of how I feel about it, guys. We will be back tomorrow, probably around the same time, lunchtime. We're gonna do 10 more bold takes, and man, we're gonna keep hey, well, we're going to keep rolling, man. Saturday, coach is going to have a scrimmage. I'm probably making my way over to Lorman, man. So stay tuned for content from that. And me and him might hop on a live show after scrimmage, man, knock out some bold takes. And then we'll come back Sunday, Monday, and throughout next week with some more. So keep submitting your bold takes. You can find us on X. Find us on Instagram, YouTube, all that good stuff, man. Look for the post in the FCS Fan Nation Facebook page and FCS Reddit. But for myself, for Coach Leroy Frederick, for the Bluebloods FCS Football Central, we are out for right now.